At our place, we actually do considerably more with them exercise-wise. We will introduce a horse to a bridle and a surcingle and side reins, which kind of really helps them develop. We use a free walker, which is a European walker. I'm sure some of you all have seen one. It's kind of a round pen with a machine in the middle, and instead of the old-fashioned hot walkers where the horses are hooked up to a halter, they're open panels. So in between, and there are 6-horse walkers and 8-horse walkers and whatever it might be, but we have polytrack in ours as far as a kind surface that we can use all the time. And we teach the horses how to go around there in groups. Like I said, ours will wear a tack, and by the time they go through this prepping process, it really helps their muscular development. It really helps them shine, as much as they possibly can. So by the time we get to the sale, those horses are on there for about an hour and really exercising it. To me, it helps develop their bone. It helps develop their mental focus. Really, it's kind of like a baby in training. So in between those times, it sounds so simple to just go from being in a field to onto this training process, but there's so many things we have to worry about. Being on a farm, especially living there, you just never know what's going to happen. I mean, some horses want to stay in their paddocks, others don't. I've driven around in the golf cart at night and been like, is that a horse that just ran by me? And he will have cleared a 4-foot fence. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You just never know what they're going to do. So the biggest part of my job is probably risk management, if you want to call it that. Just trying to keep everything as settled and as routine as possible. When you have to make changes with horses, you have to be very careful because they don't necessarily like those changes, and they may react in a very unexpected fashion. So, there are many, many people that have input as to that horse's environment. Obviously a racehorse is a blend between genetics and environment, just like, our children are. And by the time you get them there, if you can manage the environment as much as you can, hopefully the genetics are going to shine, because that's what, you've chosen that horse to be. So the fun part is that you can sometimes identify from being around a horse, a lot and putting them through that process. You can identify, which ones you're really going to have some good performance from. So by the time we get through this process and we go ahead and ship them out to the sales, there's also another transition period because shipping is probably one of the most risky businesses you'll ever do with a horse. You have to put them in a tiny little box stall, oftentimes on a semi. They come up here and they're on the van for 15 hours. So having a horse on a van for 15 hours can be, a recipe for disaster in some ways because, they may decide they don't want to eat, they may decide they don't want to drink, and believe it or not, as strong and healthy as they look, they really are fragile. Their systems, they really have to, keep the same routine every day. Market conditions can change drastically from the time this horse has been conceived. Not only market conditions, but as we've seen now, international economic conditions can change. So I guess it's all one and the same, but really as producers of yearlings and people who deal with them every day, it's such a gratifying process. It really, really is. By the time we get here and see these horses walking back and forth under these beautiful trees and this awesome sales ground, it really is something to be proud of, no matter what happens. And the great thing about it is how accessible this game is. I was not born into this by any means. I had no horse business connections whatsoever. I was just a little girl who loved horses. So I was able to get into riding and did some hunter jumpers and things like that. I grew up in Florida and actually didn't move to Kentucky until I was in my 20s. So when I moved to Kentucky, I was so excited to find out that I could actually make some money by working in the thoroughbred business, and that it was actually accessible to someone like me. So I started working horse sales, leading horses, and eventually breaking them, worked for a bunch of different farms, ended up working for a couple of bloodstock agencies, but I guess the greatest part about it is it's a real meritocracy. I mean, you know, you can really come into the game at any level if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to take the advice of professionals and, you know, figure it out one step at a time. The investment doesn't have to be huge. You can invest hard work, you can invest money, you know, and I think all of it is a hugely gratifying experience, and I'm very, very grateful that I can be a part of it and share it with you.
Now we're going to have where we're going to actually bring a live yearling into the pavilion so that Meg is going to teach you possibly what you're looking for when you're looking to buy a yearling and how this all works. So a yearling's on Monday and Tuesday night, they actually come in here as well, and the auctioneer will be up in the stand, and the announcer and the bid spotters will be all around. This place will be rocking. So it'll be kind of cool to see a little test run of how this all works. So we're going to set that up real quick for you.
This horse is by Empire Maker, so his sire is a horse called Empire Maker, and his dam is called Tempest Fugit. I picked this horse specially because I've been in love with him since he was a weanling, and his owners are actually here, and they can probably testify on how many times I have called and texted them since this horse was a foal, and I said, I've got to sell this horse. I love this horse. Please let me sell this horse. You know, no matter what age, what year, I've always been very, very attracted to this horse. So the reasons why I'm attracted to this horse, other than his pedigree, being by Empire Maker. Empire Maker is the sire of, you know, several nice graded stakes horses. So this guy, it all begins with balance. So you're looking for kind of the same qualities as, say, a basketball coach will be looking for in a high school kid. You know, a pro basketball scout's going to look for in a high school kid. So we're looking for his balance, first of all. A horse can be divided into thirds, from his nose to his shoulder being 1/3, another third in the middle, and another third behind. And there are certain lines that you know, make a horse very balanced. This line from his shoulder, from the point of his shoulder to his withers, is one angle. You can see how that line goes. You don't want, you want the horse to have enough neck. The way a horse runs, most of his weight is going to be right over his withers. So the horse's center of balance is right here. And that's why you see the jockeys crouching right in that area, so that they can keep their weight over the middle of the horse, which makes it easier for the horse to carry them. So back in the old days, of course, you saw jockeys, you know, riding in a different way until they figured out that the most efficient way was to do that. So anyway, the other points about this horse, besides his, you know, really good angles, really good balance, he's got very straight limbs. You want the horse's leg to drop from this point of his shoulder all the way to the ground, through his knee, through his ankle. You want that to be a straight line, okay? So you go straight line from the floor, through his ankle, through his knee, all the way up to here. So you can actually do a rectangle to here, and then another straight line. He's standing with his hock just a little bit behind him, but another straight line right here, down through his hind leg. So the hock to the ankle to the floor. So that's another rectangle. As far as his head and neck, you want a horse to be, you know, to have some quality about his head. You want some intelligence. You know, it's obviously subjective, but some people like different kinds of eyes. I tend to like a very, you know, large, intelligent eye like this horse has. He's got a great way about him. He's looking around very curiously. He's got his ears pricked. He's checking you all out, just as you are checking him out. And he seems to be really enjoying it. So part of being a racehorse is they have to enjoy the process, you know, and they can't be afraid, you know, of new situations. And like Wayne said, you have to figure out, the horse is always right. So part of our job is figuring out what that horse wants to do early on and kind of how to adjust through any kind of personality issues he's going to have.